Good morning, and today we're down at St Mary's Loch in the Scottish Borders at a little picnic site, and we're going to be walking the circuit of the loch. Oh, we've got a heron. Starting at Tibby Shiels Inn. It's going to be about 7 miles or so, this walk round the loch, and this has to be one of my favourite places in the Borders. The scenery down here is just incredible, and we'll be walking a little bit of the Southern Upland Way as well. We're going to head round the north side of the loch first and come back on the Southern Upland Way on the south side. So quite a lot to see on this route, and Tibby Shiels Inn, which is just across there, hidden behind the trees actually, is quite an interesting place, but we'll talk about that a bit later. We'll see you on the trail. And there's Tibby Shiels Inn, just nestling in amongst the trees there, the white building. It closed quite a while ago, unfortunately, mainly due to antisocial behaviour, unfortunately, at the picnic site. But as we've come in there to park, there's a wee cafe there, and they're doing camping permits now. So with any luck, that will have solved that problem a little bit. But down here it's actually 2 lochs. So this one here is St Mary's Loch, and there's a little bridge which you'll have seen, and the loch on the other side of this bridge is called Loch of the Louse, and basically there's it's just sort of silted up over thousands of years, and there's this little land bridge which is split the lochs, although there's still the river coming through, which is why they need the bridge. But Tibby Shiels there is where the Southern Upland Way was opened way back in 1984. So the route's been around for quite a long time. Nowhere near as popular as the West Highland Way. I'd say probably lucky if it even gets a quarter of the footfall, but it's some trail, coast to coast in Scotland. About 212 miles is the official distance, starting in Portpatrick in the west and ending in Goburn's Path in the east. And this is the sort of landscape it runs through, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. Let's get going. One of the main reasons for walking the loop, or the ring of the loch this way, is mainly because the first part of it is along the road here rather than right down at the loch side. We do have a nice grassy verge, but it's always don't like finishing on this bit by the road. This is the main Moffat Selkirk road, and an old coach road, which I'll explain again a little bit later, and it's pretty much the reason that the Tibby Shields became an inn, because of this road. It was a bit of a stop off point. This runs through all the way to Dumfries, I think, eventually. Once it crosses the M74 at Beatwick. And I'll just pan back around. But just to the left of those trees over there, that's where the Southern Upland Way comes in. And it goes over the other side of these hills via Ettrick from Moffat, and that in itself actually is a superb walk. And as you can see, there's a steady amount of traffic on this road, which we're now leaving, dropping back down to the loch side. Eventually, a little bit further up, it does cross the road, and we get a little bit of height on the hillside. We're still up by the road at the moment, but should be coming off it fairly soon. You'll see this hill just in front of us, and the route actually takes to this sort of spit of land just below it eventually. Road's not too busy, quite a few campers out making the most of the weather. But this is such a glorious place, and always a good idea to have a look back. Taking a moment just to look away from the loch, and up the glen there, it's quite hidden, but there's in fact there's a very large reservoir up there. It's quite a fun back road to drive, this, the Tweedsmuir Road. And it's rather spectacular, although it does seem to get quite a lot of camper vans over the period. But just up ahead is one of my favourite things on this walk, and I don't know if you can quite see it yet. But just on the other side of the road, nestled up by the post box there, is an old AA phone box, and that's the Automobile Association, by the way, and not the other AA. We'll go across and have a look at it. But these things were like SOS boxes for AA members, and they'd have a key for these things, which would be able to get in, and if they were in bother or had a breakdown, they'd be able to use these to telephone assistance. And I think a lot of them were in place from, say, the 1920s, maybe up to the mid-60s, possibly early 70s. I'm not really sure when they fell out of use, but this one is certainly a survivor, and it's well looked after too. But it's an interesting piece of motoring history. The RAC had their own versions of these things, and it's just a sort of minor miracle that this thing survived. And this one was called Cappercleugh box. And I think it's sort of looked after and maintained by some of the locals. Box 723. Oh. So across the road, and we're now out sort of on the hillside, or the open hillside, a little bit, which is far more pleasant than being sandwiched in between the loch and the road. But this whole area up here was part of the Ettrick Forest, which was Caledonian pine forest actually, but this became a royal hunting ground, believe it or not. So it was an area a bit like the New Forest in Devon. Isn't New Forest is in Devon, isn't it? Yeah, Hampshire. It's that far, somewhere that far south. I get a nosebleed thinking about it. But apparently the area was changed into sheep pasture by James V way back when, in the 16th century. And as you can probably see, a lot of this now is, pardon the pulse, is given over to commercial forestry. You'll see the scars on the slope opposite where it's been harvested. This side not so much. There's certainly a lot of smaller trees and shrubs here have been protected from the grazing. Certainly just having this little bit of height over the loch makes a huge difference. And I'll get my big head out the way in a second and show you this properly. A little bit of cloud coming over at the moment. It is due to threaten to rain a little bit. I don't know whether it will or not. I think it was saying something along the lines of 20% chance, so we might get a spatting, but I don't think I'll be too upset because it's really humid at the moment and quite warm. you can see how extensive the commercial forest is just over on the other side of the loch. Something which I'm not a great fan of, but it's certainly one of the big industries in the south of Scotland, especially Dumfries and Galloway. This, if you're walking the Southern Upland Way, is really the last big section of commercial forest. I think there's one maybe a little further on. But certainly the west end of the Southern Upland Way does go through significant amounts of commercial forestry and pine forest. That's us up at the head of the loch now. This here is usually quite sort of boggy ground, so it just shows how dry it's been in Scotland recently. There's a dam up here which we'll pass fairly shortly. Just a small one, but this actually serves as a water supply for some of the border towns. So it's not just a pretty place. And these gates are a bit tight with the back on. But a great view down the loch from here. And some lovely beaches. We're about to meet up with the Southern Upland Way, which heads off to Traquair from here, and that is a fabulous walk from here to Traquair. In fact, from here to Melrose, I'd argue is probably the best bit of the whole Southern Upland Way, arguably. Really great walking, but I think what have you recorded it as, maybe about 3.5 miles up to here? Yeah, 3.8. So we are actually round about the halfway mark. It's a 7-mile circuit of the loch. You get a bit of wind noise here, but ain't that just brilliant? Just a pity about the big scar in the landscape where the trees have been taken down. Just a bit further up the road there is the Dryhope Tower. Now the Southern Upland Way goes right past it. We're not going to go up today, but the tower actually is a typical peel tower, which would have provided protection from border reivers, which, if you remember the line station walk that we did, there was the Barnes Tower on that. But this one was built by the Scots of Dryhope, and was actually the birthplace of Mary Scott, who was known as the Flower of Yarrow, and an ancestor of the author Sir Walter Scott. It is actually worth a visit, as the tower, although it's in ruins, it's been stabilised, and there's been a staircase put in, so you can actually get up to the top of the tower, and it's well worth it for the views over St Mary's Loch. It really is. We're not going up today because it'll add maybe about 1.5 miles, 2 miles onto the walk. But certainly if you're feeling energetic or walking the Southern Upland Way, it's a must visit. It's only, what, about 100 to 200 metres off the path. We're just on our way back down the south side of the loch, and we've actually bumped into someone who's walking the Southern Upland Way on day 10. Which is pretty good going for here. But the thing about this trail is it's very quiet. I think when I walked it in 2019, I saw maybe 10 hikers over the whole route, and I'm not including sort of dog walkers or day walkers at some of the busier places, but folk who were walking it end to end, and it is quite the challenge of a walk, and you've only really got two options. The first option is if you want to do it bed and breakfast or in accommodation every night. You don't have an option but to push out big distances. I know I'm talking sort of between 20 and 30 miles on some stages, although I think one of the stages there is a pick-up point now where you can get picked up by accommodation, which reduces that slightly. The only other real option is to backpack it, to take your tent, do it that way. The West End, every couple of days there's a bothy on the route which breaks it up, so there is shelter there if you want it. Each of them do have a water source close by, but realistically that's about the only way to break it up into manageable chunks, and it's a pity because the Southern Upland Way is a very, very good walk, and I'd put it up there as one of the best, even though I complain about the forestry on it. Certainly logistically, the eastern part of the trail is much easier to do. Although certainly if you're heading towards Cockburn's Path, the last couple of days can be quite awkward to find something, because there's just nothing really between Lauder and Cockburn's Path now. I think even the only B&B's gone now, which is a pity. But the bit we're walking along just now is sort of quite typical, just sort of forest track. We're just coming up to the Clairfeld section as well, but once it leaves the track a bit further up, this really is a very pleasant walk back to Beeshiels. Be nice if we saw another Southern Upland Way walker on this, but I don't think I'm going to hold my breath, as it's probably getting quite late in the day. unless someone started either at Moffat or the Bothy at Ettrick Head. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling for now. So. Just walking along this section here, and just up on the hillside here is where the Clearfell is, and this used to be, I wouldn't say dark and oppressive, but the trees sort of looming over you. It felt like you were in a little bit of a tunnel coming along here. Of course, it's always been quite open on the loch side, but now those trees have gone, and it looks like they've planted a lot of native stuff a little bit further back. There's a really nice open feel to it. There's a lot of light getting in, and it's, despite the fact it's a bit of a mess up there, this has become a really pleasant bit of the route, just by having those trees taken out. But let me just pan round. It really is stunning down here. This is one of my favourite spots actually, a little lovely bit of woodland. There's larch and Scots pine in here a lot, but sadly a few of the recent storms have taken a lot of the trees down, and it's a gorgeous piece of woodland. Well, that's us. We're almost back at the Tibby Shiels Inn, with the sailing club just in front of us, and really just lost for words a little bit, but the place is just so stunningly beautiful. It does get busy at times, especially over the weekends and bank holidays. Certainly not as busy as the Highlands for the most part. It's been pretty calm today. I think we've only seen 4 other people, one on a bike, one Southern Upland Way walker, 2 dog walkers, There's a few folk out wild camping around the loch. When it does get busy though, especially at the weekends, you do get motorcyclists on the road on the opposite bank, and they do like to make a racket. The engines echo off the hillside, and it's actually quite intrusive if you're out for a walk having that noise. But it's been lovely and peaceful today. None of that, thankfully, and it stayed dry for us. Clouds actually broken up a wee bit. We'll go and have a look at Tibby Shields Inn on the way past, which is pretty legendary. And then I think go for a cup of tea in the cafe, hopefully if it's still open. Thanks. Oh. Well, the interesting news from this walk is that Tibby Shields Inn has reopened, at least as a cafe, and at the moment it's been open a couple of weeks.
Well, it says it's accommodation as well.
So the place has been shut for I think 5 or 6 years. So absolutely brilliant that it's reopened, and it just sits on that spit of land between the two lochs, and it really is quite an incredible location. But there we are, back at the Loch of the Lows. And just about back at the car. Well, that's about it for the day. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye for now.